Evening YouTube. So I'm home nice and early today, so I'm going to make a little video about the speakers that you can see on the table. Now they are Bang& Olufsen Beovox model 1702. They are rated at 40 watts and they was first made in Denmark in 1972, and from what I read they was made for 4 years, so production on these speakers finished in 1976. As you can see, they are a two-way speaker. They've got a nice solid wood cabinet on them, and they are not ported, so they are a closed box. There is no port at the front or at the back, and they're really not that big, these speakers, so they don't take up much room. So if you haven't got a lot of room, or you are just looking for a small set of bookshelves but you still want that vintage sound, then these Bang & Olufsen's are a good one. So I've got my tape measure in my hand. I'll do the sizes now, show you how big they are. So let me pull my tape measure out a little bit. Pull the speaker forward a little bit so I can get on it. And right, so they are 7 inches wide, or just under 18 centimetres. So let's do the height. Just need to pull my tape measure out a bit more. Right, so they are just under 13.5 inches, or about 34 centimetres tall. And that tweeter is, I'd say that's about a 25mm or maybe a 30mm tweeter. And that tweeter I think is made by Philips. So the driver there, that's a 5-inch driver, and I think that driver is made by Bang & Olufsen. It's one of their own drivers. And you can see the depth, so they are 7 inches deep, so they are roughly the same width as they are deep. And if you look there, they got a right nice wooden cabinet on them. Really nice quality bit of wood, that is. So these speakers are really well made, but you wouldn't expect nothing else from Bang & Olufsen. And like I said, I do think the drivers are a Bang & Olufsen driver, and that tweeter is made by Philips. Now, I'm not 100% sure on that. It is just what I think, because I've had the tweeters out of these, and to me they really look like Philips tweeters. But I could be mistaken, so they might be made by someone else. But whoever made it, they did a good job, because that is a really decent sounding tweeter. And the driver in these is a nice sounding little driver, it really is. And the thing I'm most sort of impressed with about these Bang & Olufsen's is the fact that I do think my ones are original and are exactly as they came out the factory. So I think the surrounds on the driver and the crossovers in them are all original, and they really do sound good, these speakers. So that's quite impressive for Bang & Olufsen speakers, because most Bang & Olufsen speakers, when they get this old, they would suffer from the dreaded foam rot round the drivers. But these have got rubber surrounds around the drivers, so although these don't suffer from foam rot, you do find a lot that with vintage speakers with the rubber surrounds on them, when they get as old as these Bang & Olufsen's are, that rubber goes really soft. Although it still looks good, it goes really soft. And then when you put a little bit of volume through the speakers, everything starts distorting, where the rubber has not got the strength to hold the driver in place anymore, and the driver starts moving about too much and things start sounding not very good. But that hasn't happened to these little Bang& Olufsens, so that's what I'm impressed with. I do think them rubbers are the original ones, and they are still going strong, and you can give these Bang& Olufsens a little bit of volume and they still sound really good, and that is quite impressive from a set of speakers from 1972 that I really don't think have ever had new surrounds put on them. Now, I've not had these Bang& Olufsens cranked right up flat out. I'm not going to do that to them because they are very old after all, so treat them with respect. But I have had them turned up quite loud. Believe me, I've had these little things pumping a bit and I was getting no distortion or anything out of them. So I do think that the tweeters and the drivers and the crossovers in these old speakers are all working perfectly, and that is pretty impressive from a set of speakers from 1972 that I really think have never had no work done on them. Because I really don't think they ever have been touched. Because my missus bought me these for Christmas. She got 'em off of a couple who'd had 'em years and years and used to use 'em on a Rogers Ravenbrook amplifier. So my missus bought me these as one working and one not working. But when I opened them up and went through them, all that was stopping one of them working was a dry solder joint. So I reflowed the solder joint in them, and then these Bang& Olufsens are back in action. So I really don't think they've ever had anything done to them before. And if you're interested in seeing inside these speakers, seeing what's in them and how they're put together, I have opened these up and tested right through them, fault finding and that, and made a video that is on my other channel. So if you're interested in seeing these speakers get opened up and repaired, then that is on my workshop channel. And I made that video probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I've only had these speakers working for like 2 or 3 weeks. And what I did after I repaired them is just run them at a low volume for an evening, and then I did same again the next evening, just to soften all the rubbers and that back up, because I don't think these speakers had been used for quite a few years. And then on the third night, after they'd had 2 nights to bed themselves nicely back in again, I tightened up all the screws on the drivers and that, made sure they was all nice and tight, and the tweeters, and then I started putting them through their paces a little bit. And I was pleasantly surprised by how good they sound. They really have got a nice sound to them. They've got lovely vintage tones. These really have got the vintage sound, these little Bang& Olufsens. And that tweeter in them, like I said, is a really good tweeter. Because like when I first started using them, I didn't just want to start like whacking a bit of Prodigy through them and cranking them up with a ton of bass. I still wanted to build them up nicely because they hadn't been used for a long time. So the first night I was running these, one of the first tracks I played through them where I'd give them a bit of volume was Dusty Springfield, Son of a Preacher Man. And I'll tell you what, they done a really good job on that track, especially that tweeter. Dusty's voice just sounded excellent through 'em, and I was sitting there thinking, God, these Bang& Olufsens are good for a little cheap set of vintage speakers, 'cause they're not that much money a set of these. When it comes to Bang& Olufsen stuff, these are one of the cheaper sets that you can get your hands on. So after I'd had Dusty Springfield through 'em, And I did play that track a couple of times. My missus came in the room and she went, "Oh, you got the Bang& Olufsen's working?" I was like, "Yeah, sit and have a listen." So she sat on the sofa with me and we had Dusty Springfield again and then moved on to Sam Cooke, because I'm still trying to treat these speakers nicely, so I'm only putting mellow stuff through them. So we poured out a couple of rum and cokes and had Sam Cooke Cha Cha Cha, because me and my missus loved that song. So we had that a couple of times. And I've turned the volume up a little bit because the Bang& Olufsen's are warming up nicely now. So yeah, Sam Cooke Cha 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 with a little bit of volume really did sound good through the old Bang& Olufsen's. And when that track finished, my missus turned to me and she said, "Well, I was not expecting that out of them little speakers. I really do like the sound of them." And coming from her, that says a lot, 'cause she never says that about a little set of bookshelves. She's a bit of a basshead, so she'll say that about a big set of booming floor standers, but she never really says it about little bookshelves, so she must have really liked them. So then we had a few more tracks. I think we had a bit of Nina Simone, a bit of Peggy Lee and some Sam and Dave. And then she said it again. So she said how much she liked the sound of these speakers again. So I put her on the spot and I went, "Right, come on, why do you like the sound of these speakers so much?" And what she said hit the nail right on the head, because she went, "I really like the sound of them because they just sound so lovely and so vintage." And they do, so I agree with her 100% on that one. And I was already sort of thinking the same, because they have got a decent vintage sound to them, they really have. And on the sort of music we've been playing that night, it sounds really good through vintage speakers. But then the next night, I'm putting stuff through these Bang& Olufsen's, more modern, a bit more lively. And I'll tell you what, they are doing that really well as well. So I did put a little bit of Prodigy through them just to test that bass driver out a bit. And I'll tell you what, it dealt with it really well. Now, you're not getting a ton of bass out of that little driver, but it was quite impressive for a small speaker, and I had Kraftwerk going through them as well. And on some of the Kraftwerk tracks, that mix of vintage sound and a bit of Kraftwerk really made these little Bang& Olufsen's really come into their own. So I really like these little Bang& Olufsen's for what they are. Let's not make out like they're £500 speakers. They're not. They're little vintage bookshelves that don't cost that much money. And when you look at them like that, you have to be quite impressed with these little Bang& Olufsen's. Now, I've only had them on a couple of amplifiers, and I'm looking forward to putting them onto my Sansui 310, because the way that Sansui drives the bass, I think that is going to get a really good sound out of these Bang& Olufsen's. It might not work with them, but I'm going to do that one tomorrow night because James is coming round. So I sort of planned in my head, tomorrow night James is round, we'll do the Sansui 310 with these little Bang& Olufsen speakers. So all last week I've had these little Bang& Olufsen's running in my kitchen because I've got a little vintage receiver out there. So every time I've been in my kitchen cooking dinner and all that, I've been listening to the little Bang& Olufsen's on my little vintage receiver. My missus has been using them in there as well, and we both agree that we really like the sound of them and they sound really good in the kitchen, so that will most probably be where they end up. So thank you for watching. Please hit the subscribe button and I shall see you next time.